I think we're on.
We're live.
Hey, everybody. It's Laura Eisenhower. I'm here with some of the speakers that spoke and shared at the 2-day event that we just wrapped up. And boy, was it amazing. Just so much incredible information. And I believe it's, Neil, before you go, it's something they can still purchase even after the fact, correct? The evolution of consciousness. So there's quite a few videos that we put out, but look at the information that we're going to put in the description. If you weren't able to show up, you can still purchase. This is how it's been with most of the events I've done with Portal to Ascension, and you have constant replays, and there's just so much material there. And it was really great to just be with you guys. And we've got Aage Nost, who is the co-creator of this event, along with Neil and I. And we have Elena Danaan and Nori Love. And we're just going to talk about whatever the audience is really calling out for. We got a Q&A here. I'm going to read some questions and just go around to everybody and see what y'all have to say. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about your experience of the event as well. All right, so I might just start at the bottom and go up now that we're on the panel. So on a personal basis, are there any specific signs, patterns, degrees, and or planets that are highly significant or powerful, which we should look for in our natal charts? Yeah, I mean, I'll just answer that real quick. Some of these will probably be geared towards the presentation I just did, so I can answer those maybe through email, but yeah, let's get some questions going for the panel. That would be awesome. But let me quickly, answer that. Yeah, absolutely. There's all sorts of things that are significant, especially when a person has like a stellium of planets, like a lot of planets next to each other. There are all sorts of different configurations like grand trines or grand square. There are different factors that are going to stand out. And sometimes some of the challenging aspects can be so strong that it's hard to feel the ones that flow on an easier level. It's almost like a challenge or a life lesson you have to get over before you really start to enjoy some of the other aspects and qualities of what the chart holds. But that's all a part of self-discovery till we get into that 0-point unified field and we're not so ruled by all these different things. The challenges help us to get there just as much as the blessings, of course. And I was talking about the initiatory planets. And you can definitely check that out on a replay of this event. So anybody have any questions or anything jumping out? Let's kind of go around and just say hi to everybody and any thoughts or reflections on the weekend or the last 2 days. We'll start with you, Aage, and then Elena.
Give me just a little more. I saw Daniel Winter here and I'm trying to get him in on the panel. So give me a few seconds and I can.
So Elena, what are your thoughts?
Well, I've been very impressed by all the talks, and it was quite amazing to have so many people in different fields really bringing guidance and enlightenment about all these topics. It was quite amazing. I learned a lot of things myself too. I was particularly impressed by Daniel Winter's talk, and I was hoping to share with him. I think is coming some personal thought I had about what he said. Yeah, so if he comes back, I'll share with him. Yeah, I think it was great. It was great.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm like just really happy about is that Ophiuchus season is a big deal, and anybody who hasn't heard of that, it's really important to understand. It's between November 30th to December 17th, and it's such an incredible opportunity for healing. The sun started to move through the 13th sign in 2010. I know I bring it up so much that I'm like, oh my God, I'm saying it again. But I went into a lot of detail in the presentation, and I think it'll just really be encouraging to be reminded of what properties and qualities this particular sign holds, how it corresponds with our capacity to turn everything around on this planet, really. I know that seems almost like an impossible thing. It's not going to be the same for everyone. But all these different talks, I would definitely purchased to hear all of them. I enjoyed every single one of you so immensely. And Dan, I want to connect you with Elena. She, after listening to your talk, has a few words that she wanted to share.
Hi there, happy to. Sure. Hello.
Oh, I was very impressed listening to you. I learned a lot of things, and I was like jumping on my seat, like, oh my God. I want to share with you some personal feedback about some things you said. I was in, I'm a contactee, and I have sometimes ETs giving me some information and some interesting stuff. And I want to show you this. They gave me the propulsion of a ship,
Yes.
basic propulsion, yes, with two toroids, one in the other. This donut is inside of it, so there are two layers like this.
Yes.
And there's so that creates anti-gravity. So and they put mercury or other kind of liquid metals at very high pressure, insanely high pressure and insanely high heat. And the two toroids turn at square angle. One turns like this and one turns like this, and it's creating gravity. Then I had a talk with a French scientist, Chris Esson, and he said to me, you know what? He said, in crashes of ET, extraterrestrial crafts, there was this red liquid leaking out. And he said, if you say there is mercury in these toroid generators, it could be mercury iodide, because it's ion negative. It's ion negative because as I've been told, it spins counterclockwise, and so it's negative ions. I'm not a scientist. I just repeat what I'm being told. So, what does this make sense to you?
Well, we published papers on the equations to optimize the mercury vortex. It's at fractalfield.com/propulsion. Actually, the red color is because an iron powder dopant is used with a very special solvent to make it soluble in the mercury. The function is that the mercury provides the inertial translation of vorticity for pure inertial density. However, for magnetic flux density, you need a dopant like iron, which iron powder, that's what made it red, actually. But the high pressure is correct. The reason for the perpendicular, in this case, is not directly conjugating. The two are creating the capability to create a thrust vector in perpendicular directions, actually. But the key to how gravity is made is the angle of traverse down that vortex has to approximate a conjugate angle, as in when Victor Schauberger did it with a simple piezo-doped water vortex, actually. But the physics of why a vortex makes gravity is central to my life's work, all of which is at fractalfield.com/conjugate propulsion. For example, practical example, when you hold one Hebrew letter in your mind, as a rabbi does, creating a golem, what it does is it controls the phase or tilt angle of the plasma vortex in your optical cortex. And aside from being a source of energy, it is actually a propulsion vector. So once you know why an object falls to the ground, then it's immediately obvious how a vortex makes gravity. This became evident after the new equations we have, which predicted that this is in fact the structure of hydrogen. Take the Planck threshold with the musical key there, and use golden ratio exponents, you predict the orbital radii of hydrogen, proving that hydrogen itself is built that way, like a conjugate or fractal vortex. So vortex theory of gravity is central to what we're doing. And by the way, that's what was called impulse power in Star Trek. What they called warp propulsion is a bit more advanced, where they use well, in Koski Frost, it was a piezoelectric crystal, but in Star Trek, they called it the lithium niobate. And actually, lithium niobate is a phase conjugate dielectric, and it is a phase conjugate pump wave. The reason is that rotating conjugators make gravity. It's a bit of the advanced stuff, but actually, it's a slinky that the pump wave is converting the vortex And that implosion literally warps space. So that all is at that article. We have a lot of people that are involved in these things. Happy to see that.
Yeah. So would you say it creates a singularity?
Well, singularity is a decent term for it. Once you learn the key signature is tuning to Planck, the singularity is the Planck threshold at which the transverse electromagnetic is converted into longitudinal EMF. And even Bearden's equations prove that's the substance of a gravity wave. Basically, the gravity wave is the compressional wave that is squirted out the center of the squirt gun at the Planck threshold. And singularity, even Nassim calls that a kind of a black hole. And it is. It's because implosion is making gravity. The interesting thing is, you rotate a conjugator like that, like a carbon nano of sufficient purity, it makes both energy and propulsion. And it does make all energy and propulsion on this planet look like the Stone Ages.
Yeah, totally. Wow. Thank you very much. Wow.
That's awesome.
Wow.
We have a question if you guys are ready for that. It says, dear panel, first of all, thank you for sharing such amazing knowledge. Since I've been activated, I know that my mission is to heal the elements, nature, animals, and I am already healing people with music. What resources would you recommend to expand my knowledge and gifts? I'm currently diving into metaphysics to apply and understand the science, but any suggestions would be appreciated. And yes, I'm working to increase my frequency. So I would rather just like let anybody who's ready to answer just jump right in.
Oh, I could.
Yes.
I could. And I would really, first of all, I'm going to say we have had people from all over the globe on this conference. And I'm looking through the list of the people that is here, and I see one, Åse Everbø. That, looking at that name, it's got to be a Norwegian. Så I would say to her, velkommen til konferansen vår. Jeg er så glad at du er her. So that was for her especially. If you understood it, you speak Norwegian. All right. And I had so much fun doing this. And, you know, there are some incredibly sharp people here. And I would say for the people that has been listening to this, join us on Facebook and on social media and go to our website and just stay in touch, because it doesn't end here. There is more knowledge, there's more wisdom and information coming, and it could be coming in subtle ways where maybe we just say something in a show somewhere that you can catch and you can apply it to your life to make your life better. And I know that because it happens to me all the time when I listen to people. You know, it's just plain and simple. You know, God made me one mouth and two ears, and we should use them accordingly. And I try. It doesn't work all the time, but I try. So for those of you that want to hear about astral travel and how to reverse the aging process, as the Nobel Prize were given for its discovery, but nobody told us, you can go back into the recording here and listen to what I talked about here yesterday. And also, I would say, make contact. I am totally available to anybody that buy my books or contact me on Facebook. And so I spend 12, 16 hours a day working, and I love talking to people. So just come and make a contact. And I don't know, I want to hear more from people that are smarter than me. So you guys got it.
Actually, I had a question for Elena, if possible. Elena, when Michael Salla on Exopolitics said that the Super Galactic Federation representatives at Ganymede were in fact the return of Enki and the Nine, did that information come from you or Megan Rose? And do you have any comment about what that means in your view?
Yes, it was coming from me actually. Well, I haven't been told that Enki was the same thing as the Intergalactic Confederation. I haven't been told it really. I knew Enki was back, but Enki is not maybe especially a being. It's maybe, you know, a group or concept or something. And the Intergalactic Confederation, it's a federation of different galaxies, in fact. And it's a culture that's extremely old. I know they're like 20,000 years older in advance technologically, kind of this. The nine are the nine. So I was told about the nine, and suddenly, you know, it made me Star Trek. That looks like it. But okay, the nine are 9 supra consciousnesses. They are not incarnated. They are like huge. That's like you mentioned plasmic consciousnesses. I would relate to this same thing. So how I've been described is that they do not live in they live in the void. It's something, it's called the void. They live in the void, not in space, not in time, not in a dimension. They live in between all of this. They can be everywhere at the same time. They can shape shift. They can communicate. They can take human form to communicate to people. They can take any shape. And in the Intergalactic Confederation relates to them. It's like their spirit guides, their gods, you know. And so they are in the best way to describe where they are and what they are. It's like they are in the void. I've been told this word void. So that's.
Were you aware when Andrei Puharich, the only planet of choice, and talked about those communicating with him were called the Nine? I knew him quite well, and that's actually where they got the idea of the Deep Space Nine series. And the Deep Space Nine, interestingly, the theme was that the black hole, which was actually a transport device, was actually turned out to be mindful and had intent. So here's an interstellar plasma vortex called the black hole, and later they find out that it's mindful and has intent. Talk about plasma intelligences. So there's a big history toward talking about the Nine in the science fiction literature, came from Andrei Puharich, who was quite a story. Anyway, so you might want to compare.
Yes, and in Deep Space Nine, and I advise to watch the episode The Chase. I've been sent an excerpt from this episode recently by someone, and I went, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
The founders, the Cedars.
The Cedars.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yes. And, you know, Vincent called those the galactic core cultures. And I think Anton Parks called them the Kadistu. There's many terms, but basically to understand what makes such a plasma intelligent. For example, Anunnaki tradition was that your position in the political hierarchy, body polis, was in the hierarchy of the Nine. So literally they recognized their star ancestors were a giant plasma intelligence characterized as the Nine.
Yes.
That's all over, you know, Sitchin even. So there's some great root there, and that became the Nine in the Egyptian and the. Yes.
Oh, totally. And the Egyptian culture is derived from the Anunnaki culture, the Mesopotamian culture, you know, so I'm totally sure.
And that's in the Ennead?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Yes, precisely.
Yeah,
so in the 9 steps of the pagoda and Dante's Inferno, it's all. So if we understand more about what makes plasma intelligent at that scale, you know, we know when 1 million children sang the same song, it was measured 11 times, it affected the solar output. That's a plasma intelligence.
Yes. And that's something you mentioned as well when you spoke about whale language, yes, and also ideogram language, like codes. It's a telepathic language it's not really telepathy. It's like quantum communication, and it sends codes made with mathematical equations, images, light, plenty of things. And that's the language I've been, you know, I met some beings from this Intergalactic Confederation. They're not the Nine, they're just people, but they were tall whites, and they were talking like this. And when you hear them, it sounds like the dolphins sounds, but it's all right. It's very nice. But then you receive like patches, and each patch thought has encoded in it. It's like a holographic writing, and it has encoded emotion, a story, visuals, words, sounds. That's their language. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And when, Dee said the alphabet of the angels was a hypercube, which is Ophiuchus Enochian, then we see that, and that's a superset of the spiral and the torus, which made Hebrew. And if you take the sound Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet and do a power spectra, the frequency signature of the sound of the letter makes the picture of the letter. It's called Spectrograms of the Hebrew Alphabet by Fred Wolf, Carlos Suarez. So that's an indication that the plasma beings are receiving plasma domains, not just which feed their aura, but their name and their shape and language and service are one.
Yes.
The physics of language.
Last thing, I just, today I was reading this book. I don't know if you know it.
Oh, yes, I do. I have the book.
Listen
Yes.
to that. And that came to me and I just put a little, that's interesting. Abba Marash, Anunnaki's spatial transmissions of thoughts on a holographic grid. The thoughts register as codes on an electroplasmic screen or mirror.
That's cool. Yes.
The Abba Marash codes appear in sequences of numbers, usually a multitude of dots and lines. The dots corresponds to 0, the line corresponds to 1.
And that makes language very dense, extremely dense with information. It's a vision. Wow.
Oh my God. We will, let us.
Another time.
We can go on this.
Another time.
Oh, no, I could be here. It's like, oh, the sun's coming up. I'm thrilled because I love listening to you both. Okay.
Laura, what was that question about healing? Because I did want to say something.
Yes. So she said, since I've been activated, I know that my mission is to heal the elements, nature, animals, and I'm already healing people with music. What resources would you recommend to expand my knowledge and gifts? I'm currently diving into metaphysics to apply and understand the science. Any suggestions would be appreciated. And then let me just plant a seed for the next question about, is Earth a solid sphere or flat? So get ready for that one, everyone. So go ahead, Nori.
So if you feel drawn, I would certainly recommend Reiki. Reiki is such a beautiful modality. So if you feel drawn to it, that's definitely something I would share. That's it.
Mhm.
Excellent. Who wants to tackle the flat Earth thing? And then, wait, I think I just might have something to say about
Out of my realm.
I think the nutritional component is like super important, and just really, I mean, it almost sounds just like, okay, nature, nutrition, crystals, essential oils, Reiki for sure. That's, awesome. But there's something about like medicinal mushrooms and some of these supplements that are quite extraordinary. And I just wanted to just throw out there, not trying to sell stuff, but I only distribute these products because I believe in them and I use them. But if you go to my website, cosmicgaia.org, and you look under products, some of the most quality medicinal mushrooms and green foods and superfoods and all sorts of great blends with ashwagandha and chaga. And I mean, I've been exposed to a lot of stuff that could have made me sick, and because of what's going on, and because of some of this stuff, I moved through it so quick. And I just wanted to say that keeps my frequency high, and it just helps you to be at your most optimal as you're just doing your creative thing. And of course, nature and laughter, and that's all I'll add.
I just wanted to, regarding the Reiki, on our goldenmean.info/kit page, we show the Japanese roots of the Reiki symbol,
Really?
which are the shadow of the embeddability of the platonic solids. So the dichomio, for example. So when you
Yes.
make that symbol, you're actually inviting charge implosion, literally. So
Wow.
the physics of origin of Reiki. And maybe I'll give it just quick 30-second on the Hollow Earth story or the flat Earth story. Any planet that evolves from a molten origin or a hot origin.
Wait, hold on 1 second. Seth just needs to be let in. Keep going. I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Seth, if you could start from the beginning. I just said that Seth is
Yes, to let Seth in, yes. So just to say that if a planet is cooling from a molten state or a hot core, it's always going to have major hollow. So it's normal that a big part of the center planet, and I think the point made by what's that scientist, Valerie, that the seismic data and the gravitational data indicate Yeah, Brooks Agnew, thank you. And so that clearly the planet has big hollow, and that's normal. And in fact, many people believe there is a form of cold fusion. They call it the misty light inside. That it's a form of nickel copper cold fusion inside, a bit of light inside. As far as the flat Earth, of course, that story makes no sense. But from a shamanic viewpoint, as you perceive the longitudinal array, in your shamanic longitudinal travels, you could perceive the Earth as a plane. So that is a metaphor that still is useful. So that's my comment.
Wow, brilliant. Aage, do you see that Seth is there?
Really good.
Yes. I would say also when it comes to the Earth being round, if you take a little bit of a drop of water and you spin it in vacuum, it's going to rotate and it will be round. The faster you spin it, it will just flatten out a little bit at the equator, but it still is round. It cannot turn into a flat surface, because we are in space, we are in vacuum, we are a place where there is very little, if any, gravity outside of what is created within the solar system, which is very minor compared to the rotation. So I don't know why I even went there, but it took care of the flat earthers, I hope.
I've seen Earth from space. It's a sphere.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Once
you.
you've seen the blue ball, there's nobody that can convince you otherwise.
But why do you think the flat earthers are so vicious and mean? I mean, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Seth is still waiting to get brought on. Anyway, I don't have the ability to get Seth on the panel, but he's waiting.
I want to comment on one thing also what Daniel was talking about. He mentioned something about the black hole. I don't know, and either for or against what I'm saying here, Dan, please give us your thoughts afterwards. The black hole is really not understood very well by mainstream science, or should I say even Newtonian physics. They really don't have a clue. They think they do, but I think they're off the mark. They're saying that it is so powerful in its gravity that it sucks everything and nothing can escape it. But then again, NASA just published a paper, I think about a year or two ago, where they saw something was spit out of a black hole. So they're talking out of both sides of their mouth, and which end of the mouth is the true, Daniel?
Well, once you know why an object falls to the ground, then you could have the conversation. And the physics of gravity is what Einstein correctly said was infinite non-destructive compression, but the word is infinite. And what that results in is a sorting phenomena at the center. So Stephen Hawking and others did correctly predict that black holes would be spitting something out. That's well agreed now. But what is spit out is what I believe is a phase conjugate array, which is evidence the black hole is mindful. And that's a new idea. But the evidence the black hole is mindful is the fact that there is sorting that happens at the core, which is a form of perception. And in fact, the nature of the implosive compression is that only what is phase sorted can survive. For example, the physics of successful death, only shareable wave comes through. So anger cannot pass through death quite literally.
Mm-hmm. So what NASA saw was spit out of the black hole.
Oh, that's well known. The black hole ejections are now commonly accepted. What is ejected, the nature of the increased order of what is ejected, behind that, I believe, is the physics of negentropy, and that is the title of my book.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Yeah.
very cool. Just trying to see. I'm so sorry to interrupt the conversation. Trying to say that I can't seem to get Seth in, but we'll work on that. I don't know if he's going to end up dropping off, but we'll take the next.
Laura, Neil is here. Can he get Seth in?
Neil's here, so I bet he'll be able to. It might just not have the feature free. Did anybody else want to address that question? I can move on to the next question. It's about
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any 432 hertz music recommendations? I don't know what to trust on YouTube, so would like to purchase something recommended.
We do have a website about the physics of implosion sound, sorting out the 432 versus 440 concept in terms of what harmonic series renders the most implosion and therefore the most negentropy. That website is fractalfield.com. I repeat, fractalfield.com/implosion sound. And you can see the table and the array there, that you do get more harmonics in a musical scale if you do tune to 432. But the reason for that is basically to tune to implosion.
Huh. Anybody else?
Wow. There's got to be some good thoughts in here somewhere.
I've gotten a lot of frequency music from Spotify, and I just go by the way that it makes me feel. You know, if it makes me feel all jangled, it's not good. If it does what it's supposed to do, then I continue to listen to it.
I agree with Nori. There are a lot of alleged 432 music that's supposed to be making you feel good, and then it's different frequency in it, and it just, as Nori said, trust your heart, trust what you feel. What do you feel? How does it make you feel? That's the answer.
Well, you see, feeling is part of a language. It's a spiritual language. What Daniel is talking about, that is the physics of it, but it expresses itself, the way I see it, expresses itself in a physical reality as a feeling, as a knowing, because we are able to tap into our mind, or should I say, yeah, our mind can tap into the physics that is on the other side of this physical border or veil that we cannot see, but our mind can tap into it through the subconscious, superconscious mind, into that universal mind. It is there, it's available, and he's able to explain it. And we may not understand the science of it, but we have a way to attach it, to bring it in, and it sometimes show up. We can hear music and tears start flowing. Or we can hear music and suddenly we remember something 23 years, 8 months, 7 weeks, and 3 days, 4 hours, and 2 minutes ago. That happened at that time when we were listening to that music. It is stored not just maybe in the brain, but it's stored in the universe, and we can tap into it. There is a spiritual language.
The science of emotion in music literature is called Sentics by Manfred Klein's, the article goldenmean.info/touch. For example, the change in pressure over time in the touch that says, I love you, is a point of maximum pressure at about 0.61 golden ratio into the duration of that event, which sets up an implosion effect. So this perfect hug is actually tantric delayed as a pressure geometry, versus the touch that says, I'm angry with you, reaches max pressure at 1/7 destructive interference. So you actually learn the language of pressure, which is both touch and sound.
Hey, Seth is with us.
Hey, you guys, my gosh.
Hey.
Seth.
You know, I came on the perfect time too. You're literally talking about what I love most, music. It's one of my most passionate favorite things. And I love that there's just such an interesting spectrum of perspectives on it, from, you know, the science to a more intuitive base. But I love music because I'm a vocalist. I'm a musician. I sing, I play music. It's just something I love doing. But even more than that, it's like the real music comes from within, right? And I noticed that being a singer and being a performer and playing and really doing it well, if I'm not fully in it, I'm creating a frequency that isn't quite attuned to the possibility that sound can create. And so I'll feel like my being is not in alignment. The energy I'm creating is not creating good music. But when I own it, when I step right into it, when I'm in love with what I'm doing, all of a sudden I take on this whole other role, and I'm like living in the music, and it's coming through me in that way whether it's gentle, nice, healing music, whether it's heavy metal, I mean, all of it. It works no matter what you do if you're all in. So, because we forget, we generate energy. That's what it really comes down to. We generate energy. And when you get really good at being conscious of the part of yourself that is aware that you generate energy, you become very mindful of the type of energy you're generating. And thus you're going to attract things that are going to amplify or increase that or repel it. And
Yeah. Because the music uses its language to speak to you.
and not only that, music, it's funny, there's a saying, music can very often say what words cannot. You know, I know, speaking for me, for myself, I know very little, very, very little. And the more I think I know, the more I find out that I don't really know that much. So it's always this constant process of like, oh my God, I'm beginning to realize, and oh my God, I can sense all these things and it's all making sense. And then all of a sudden, bam, oh, wait a second, it's totally gone. Amnesia. And it has a way of doing that to bring you to this place where you're able to sustain a place of humility, of humbleness, of innocence. And I love that. I love that. That's my favorite part of, especially music is like the ultimate thing, because it takes a lot to stand up, especially to sing, you know, to get up in front of 1,000 people and sing and use your voice, and just with everything you've got to be so either super egotistical or totally detached from your ego in order for it to work really well. And if any of this makes sense.
I see this question by Liana Curtis here. Enki is a culture, is what I heard, versus Anu and Enlil. Is that your understanding? You know, Zachariah Sitchin wrote a book on Enki, and I wrote a book on Enki, goldenmean.info/Enki. But then Anton Parks wrote a book on Enki, a whole series of detailed research in which basically says that Enki becomes Ptah Osiris with the green face. And that's a very detailed, and that indirectly is a culture, because the name of that bloodline, Thutmose, became the name of the bloodline of Jesus and the name of the bloodline of the royal family of Egypt. So it is a culture and it is a person, both, actually.
I totally agree.
And then
Totally agree.
then Isis, there's something there with
as the partner of Enki. And in the end of the Anton Parks books, Isis is attempting to reassemble the bloodline, the memory of Osiris, Enki, in the orbit of Venus, which we now know is a profoundly conjugate pent orbit. And planetary orbits are inhabitable when they're conjugate enough. So that's the plasma field of the most fractal planets that can be inhabited by the most intelligent beings. That's, what's the title of that book, Valerie? It's called The Testimony of the Virgin is the title of that book.
Gosh.
Can I totally throw a curveball into this whole conversation and maybe possibly derail it, and just we can all pick up the mess if it happens to go off rail?
So we're answering questions. Let do that, and then I'll answer Kristen, who wrote something here. But absolutely, go for it, Seth. And if you all agree.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe a part of me wants to stir things up, but I'll speak for myself. When I allow myself to just be present as I am, and I kind of observe Seth, who Seth has become up to this point, so much of who I think I am and what I think of the world is based upon mechanisms of learning that weren't, you could say they weren't really mine to begin with. I grew up in a society. I was taught this language that we're speaking. I was taught to interpret and make sense of information in a very specific way because everybody else does that and everybody else thinks it's normal. And it allows you to become really intellectually intelligent. It allows you to really become over analytically conscious of who you think you are and what you think the world is. But then a near-death experience or a super relaxing, like I was saying last night, that state between waking and sleeping, and you begin to become conscious of a part of yourself that you aren't fully conscious of, but it's there, and it's actually more predominant than the part of you that you think you know. And so at what point do we step back and really surrender to that and let it all go? And because I really don't know anything. When I hear people talk in the world, all I hear is like, okay, all these different structures and formats and belief systems and projections of what people think they know. And I sense very little of this feeling of knowingness that's so deeply embedded into the consciousness of an individual that they are emanating it in a way where they are aligned with the greater physical and non-physical structures that everything comes from. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Embeddability.
Anybody have thoughts on that? You want to share?
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul. I said
What's that?
I derailed the conversation. I knew I was gonna, but I
You didn't. We got a lot of questions, and with questions from the audience, it's pretty random. We're not really sticking with any theme. So that was
Okay,
just
good.
a cool share, and we'll just go to this question and see. I don't think it's been read yet. Tell me if it has, because I've been just trying to get you on and didn't mean to distract everybody. I think I had the capability to, but I couldn't figure it out. So it says, I have been getting biofeedback and body talk sessions. In both, I have been told that my crown chakra is blocked. Sometimes I feel like there is a brick on my head. And when I try to open my crown chakra, it gets really hot. Do you have any suggestions on how I can accomplish this? I have also been told by 2 different biofeedback practitioners that I am being harshly energetically attacked. I activate my shields every day and they have not been able to attach to me. But can this be why I'm having this issue with the crown chakra? And then she says, in my last body talk session, she said I had a protection wall up that was an indigo blue purple color.
So this is kind of where it comes back to what I was saying is when you recognize that the predominant bulk of who you think you are is the result of having been influenced by so many others who essentially have been influenced in a way where it's like information has become recycled, reinterpreted, like the telephone game. Then you realize that you're getting your information from a second, third, fourth, fifth hand source, like a middleman or middlewoman, when really the truth of the information, you could say, the actual harmonic frequency that ultimately leads to your illumination and liberation comes from you just so devotionally needing to connect with the part of you that feels out of balance. And so when I go, you, as you know, Laura, I went through a lot. I had some really serious issues at many points in my life. And there were times when I would go and visit with a lot of different types of healers and psychotherapists and all these people to help me try to make sense of a life that I just couldn't deal with. I couldn't process it. And many people could help to a degree, but then I got to this point where I was like, okay, but there is something causing my heart to beat, causing your heart to beat. And we're talking about everything, but whatever the true nature of that is, and that's going on in us, in nature, it's in the earth, it's above us. That is a much more predominant factor than everything else that pretty much everybody is talking about. How do we get back to reality? So by realizing like, okay, we are in a place where we have been taught that the things that matter so much, and the things that really do matter don't seem like they do. I'm gonna turn this into a physics talk here by using matter so much. But at what point do we say, okay, there's some major missing links, and maybe I'm the missing link. Maybe it isn't somebody or something that has an answer of how I can heal myself, as much as it is me just wanting to be the connection that I sense is temporarily missing in my awareness of who I think I am, and turning that on, activating it, just being so fully present with whatever that is, because you can't consciously remember it, that it somehow ignites it. And for me, that has been the only thing that has truly brought me through these dark nights of the ego that we're all going through. And it's funny, we were talking about this the other day. It's not really dark night of the soul as much as it is dark night of the ego. The soul's like, come on, you guys, wake up. Like, come on, it's always been here. It's the ego that's like, no, I don't want to do that.
Right.
So
Maybe on the science side of that question, biofeedback is my specialty. That in terms of actually addressing specific chakras, some of the most in-depth research been done by a biologist, Patrick Botti, who is our programmer. We have 6 biofeedback apps on the App Store, and iThrive, ITHRVE.com. The iThrive Chakras app specifically uses medical and biological literature, allowing you to do the breath exercise to tune your heart rate variability. And you can very specifically trigger sequences of glands with that, as you can also using those same harmonics in our plasmafire.com or Quantify system, which is some advanced stuff. So there is a biofeedback aspect where you can trigger specific chakras quite specifically, and it does work. It's quite real. But regarding the astral hygiene feeling attacked energetically, I wonder maybe Elena would be good to speak to that one.
To which one?
That she feels attacked energetically.
All right.
In terms of Elena, in terms of she feels attacked energetically. Maybe you had some suggestions?
Yes, if she feels attacked energetically, that means there's a breach in her shields, but it can be in her shields, but in her protections. But she says that she's working hard on her protections every day. So if the protections are good and always up, there's a breach somewhere else. You know, you can have a super strong fortress. If you leave a window open, the fortress is useless. And what is a window open? It may be a trauma inside, or a wound, a weakness that entities have hooked on it and use as a window, maybe fear, maybe pain, maybe sadness, loneliness, something they can use to get in. So I would advise to this person, I don't know, this person who's listening to me, I don't know your story, I don't know you, but my advice would be to try to heal yourself, do a checkup. Do you have traumas? Do you have fears or things like that maybe you could heal? And then you will feel really strong inside, like a diamantine, you know, and then you don't maybe even need protections, you know, because you're already strong. So try that, I would say.
I've got to interject here. I love what Elena's saying. You're making what you're saying, I'm feeling of like a different way of perceiving this. So if somebody feels like they're being attacked or there's entities, I mean, one way of looking at it is we are an entity, right? We are some kind of bioelectric energy entity that is animating a being. And when we're not conscious of the potentials that can represent, then we're not a complete entity, right? We're like an entity that's weaving in and out of its own wholeness. And so we have these open spots that subject us to all this other stuff. But the more we work on realizing I am an entity, I am animating a form, and the more we work on creating coherence, heart-brain coherence, then all of a sudden all of your organs start to form in coherence when your heart and brain are in coherence. Then all of a sudden your entire energy field is in alignment with the coherence that all of your organs, glands, and bones and bone marrow and everything are creating together. Essentially, we're like this crystal. You know, it's our entire being is a crystal, our physical being. You know, our appetite is what our bones are made out of. There's calcium, there's all kinds of crystals all through us. So when we're in alignment, when we're in integrity, and we make that our focus no matter what, we eventually come to a place of fullness where things really can't attack us or hurt us. And it's accompanied by a realization of, God, I love so greatly. I'm so grateful. I love being alive. I'm like looking at your hand, everything. I know it sounds kind of weird, but you just see everything as like, holy shit. It is a sheer miracle that any of this is happening at all, that any of us are alive, that like, I mean, really, like when you really, really sit into it and feel it. And so that curiosity brings you back to this place where you begin to activate the remembrance of just how miraculous you have the potential to be. And that in and of itself reinforces the entity, the energy field that you are currently temporarily, in a way that it just pushes out things that don't support that bit of you that realizes how profound this all actually is.
Awesome. Oh, that's awesome. I have something I just really want to share quick, just based on the question. And I'm just going to do a quick share screen. Because if this is your crown chakra and you feel attack, I've been focusing a bit on this in my presentations, and I just want to show a slide here. So psycho-spiritual warfare is radically increased when a person is entering the integration stages of the 7, 8, and 9 of the monadic spiritual triad, because this is when we begin to achieve hierogamos and ascension. This is what was lost in 7D Earth. And also when Tiamat exploded, there was no separation from these higher energies. So when we look at the 7 chakra system and the crown and what goes beyond the crown, we're talking about an infinity spiral. So the 8th and 9th chakra are not chakras that are just above our head. It actually creates an infinity spiral, has a lot to do with the integration of polarity of the masculine and feminine within ourselves, the gold, silver energy, thymus, permanent seed atom of the crystal heart, atomic doorway, mouth of God, projector of light consciousness. So this has a lot to do with male, female balance. And anytime anything's not balanced, just in existence, it usually attracts something that feeds on it. And that is why we're so easily overtaken by parasitic vampiric systems, because we are a very imbalanced culture. The Saturn Moon Matrix programs, the patriarchal programs have made us imbalanced as just on a global scale. So in our own personal world, when we begin to take a leap and take a step, sometimes the psychic attack is so bad that we have to kind of shield ourselves and create an optimal space for us to be able to move through it. And what is key also is to not take it personally, because sometimes we loop in the attack energy when we begin to think we're failing, or, oh, I thought I was doing my spiritual path correctly and something's wrong with me. I'm not doing it right. And why is everything out to get me? And you just have to just keep breathing through it and keep trusting yourself. And when I did the biofeedback, the only thing that cleared energy from my space was saying F you real loud. It was so funny. I'm like, oh, that's the magic word. Anyway, but that worked for me. I just had to share that. The magic word. I don't know about it, should be a keeper as a magic word, but anyway, I'm trying to get this off my
It works.
screen. Sorry about this. So anybody want to jump in? I'm just going to try and get this off my screen. My mouse isn't working. Any other thoughts on that, or we can move to the next question? Is there any?
I love it. I love how much you're going into the body, because so much of what so many people seem to be suffering with is a lack of connection to their body. You know, the many things that we're taught, like, oh, go exercise, and that, like, you know, it provides a connection to the body. But what everybody here is talking about is really embodiment and getting to know yourself on what appears to be a completely different dimension, but it's really just dimensions of ourselves that we're not that familiar with because we haven't been taught to, you know. So I love how everybody's emphasizing that here.
Awesome. Any other thoughts on this question? And there's more questions.
I wonder if Elena noticed that last question: who created the AI that created the matrix, and what are the archons? Did you notice that question, Elena? Do you?
No, I didn't notice. I don't know.
I don't see the question.
I don't know.
There's many levels of that, and AI.
Well, AI, it's technology. you know.
Yeah,
So it's artificial consciousness. It has been created by a civilization who has the technology to do that, and it can be different people. So that's what I believe.
I feel because
But-
we're in a free will universe, it becomes a mirror and reflection, because AI mimics and imitates. It can't create on its own. So all it can do is mimic and imitate. And I feel some of the conditions of the differentiation of the masculine and feminine and the fallen races, and the differentiation that like ended up becoming more about duality, and the war between service to self and service to others opened up some sort of portal and infection that produced these gruesome creatures as they harness the mother womb in order to generate and manifest this. So the Sophionic stuff kind of goes into it. That's all I'll say.
I mean, knowing the difference between AI and ensoulment eventually may determine whether we succeed as a race. AI is a problem galactically, it's true. And the way Johann Fritz describes the origin of the black goo AI is highly parasitic and very dangerous with the Draco. So AI can be a serious issue. That doesn't mean it's either good or bad inherently, but the intent behind it, as with the black goo, was very negative and dangerous. So once we realize there can never be a ghost in a machine, in that the dielectric is not correct, a spirit will never inhabit a computer, and a computer will never have a soul, then we can begin to decide the direction for our children, actually. So knowing the difference between AI and how you get a soul is literally the difference between that and immortality. So I think having a question about AI here is actually useful. As far as the archons, there are many legends. One is that the higher Draco, the archangels, the archons saw the higher branch of the Dracar, whom Elena calls the Siakar, who Michael Helios called them the same years ago, actually. And there's a white queen. Many people believe that's who the archon referred to. But the high Draco recognize interstellar plasma beings themselves. It is understood that, as Elena mentioned, there's a species that they're actually afraid of as well. So these intelligences are very large.
I also feel archons being meaning rulers are the ones that are like in charge of what's under the net, under the matrix. They are kind of blocking us from true source, 0 point unified field. And so archons are rulers, but the mind parasites connected to them has a lot to do with the mind control and the manipulation of the planetary grid network and our DNA in order to make us hosts to these archonic forces and entities, so that we're like in such a low frequency that we keep generating loosh for them to feed on as long as we're existing under this net, you know? Artificial intelligence, I feel, can just be cured with the truth frequency, because once we're living in our truth, anything artificial, we're not hospitable for it to be able to invade us, because only us being fake or us being indoctrinated or running a subpersonality is going to make us susceptible for that level of intrusion, I feel.
And there might be a thought about the origin of the term An in Archon from Anu, meaning sun god. And yet, and the clairvoyants have seen clearly the plasma heart of the sun. They call it Anu. And so many times, like Anunnaki means they were wannabes. They wanted to be sun gods. Namely, they wanted to have plasma big enough to inhabit a star, which, by the way, my Kundalini teacher, Benthoff, did actually. Felt the earth and then felt the sun as a living body and see through the center of the sun as an eyeball. So it's true, you don't grow up until you become a sun god, and every religion reflected that. And that's who Anu is, the Ark of Anu. So many times these terms have a beautiful origin, and then they're usurped by the wannabes. Like Yahweh in the Orion sector meant a double plasma cone. It was a beautiful thing. But when Enlil took the term Yahweh, it was not a beautiful thing. So the wannabes take over. So, but the heart of the term Anu in Archon is actually a beautiful concept, the plasma heart of the sun.
Wow.
An means source, isn't it?
Well, see, that's beautiful. Anu, source, and sun heart is the same thing. And the heart of the sun, 7 spins 5 outside, 5 spins inside, as seen by the clairvoyance of the sun, is precisely the plasma symmetry of the human heart and the heart of hydrogen. They all have exactly the same. And the reason is simple: 7 spins tetracube and 5 spins terrific. So it's a perfect slip knot, actually.
Yeah.
Just real quick, and if anybody else has any thoughts on this. Also, when we step down in dimensional energies, some of these higher groups or councils still maintain that higher self, just like we do as humans. We might live in our lower self, but ultimately we're here to integrate higher into lower so that we're not so polarized. But the Thothian energy, the Archangel Michael energy, a lot of the what was at one time beneficial ended up not being, particularly at the end of the final Atlantean cataclysm and the emergence of Aleister Crowley. And something happened with the Emerald tablets and the Thothian stuff that isn't all dark, but there is like a dark shadow aspect to some of these beings as they are in lower density or participate in lower density. Just had to add that. I don't know what you think about that. And then I'll be quiet because I know you guys haven't said anything in a little while, but what are your thoughts on that? If you want to say anything, Dan or Elena, since we're before, it's like the imposters, I guess, that the higher self of a certain being can be hijacked by imposters. Like the Orion group is an imposter behind the whole Yahweh thing. And what happened with, how it controlled even the Melchizedeks and the Judaism and a lot of well-intentioned people that just started getting distorted teachings and got further and further away from even, and the mother energy just not even being able to be present until recently had a lot to do with that, because the Saturn moon matrix and the patriarchal part of it all created this sort of false king of tyranny archetype that kind of seemed to lose connection with that original sort of higher self that we're learning to make sure we don't lose connection with as humans, I guess.
Well, Elena does a nice talk about the dangers of channeling and hearing the false beings pretending. And it was very useful from Elena, I thought. That the term Melchizedek came from Mag Zidak. Mag and Tak, the Mag were the queens of Orion called Tak. And the order of Melchizedek, it has an Orion origin as well, actually.
Cool. Anybody else have any thoughts? Or we can shift gears, or I don't want to cut you off, Elena, if you had any final words about it, or...
Although don't get me started about all the predators hanging around and that. We're here tomorrow, so I'll.
I always think about the cosmic
Nori,
campfire where we're all telling stories. Go ahead, Aage.
yeah, Nori and I have a radio show, a broadcast team Alpha coming up here shortly, so we have to go to take care of the guests and make sure our microphones work and stuff. So.
Oh no! Oh, sorry. We will put more attention on you before we continue with the conversation. I really appreciate you both so much. Any final words or anything you want to say?
Nori, you are muted.
Massive gratitude, just such an honor to be present and to share this rarefied air with all of you. So grateful. Thank you for letting me be part of it. Thank you for all your contributions. I'm so grateful.
It's so incredible to be with you. I look forward to doing more in the future. It's just always amazing to be in your presence and hear what you have to share. And it's just been so wonderful. It's totally shifted me, this conference. That's why we do this, right? We all want to shift each other and just remind each other.
Yeah.
So Charnel is here. If we could get her, I don't see how I can add people for some reason.
I got it. She's coming in right now.
Nice.
Okay. See you later.
Bye,
Bye,
Aage. It's so
Aage,
wonderful to
thank
hear
you.
Bye.
One moment, Aage. I just want to here right now publicly give you so much gratitude for just coming together with this. I mean, thank you so much for everything you do, brother. And it's been such a pleasure just working with you and creating these events. You and Laura, we got a lot more in store for us in the future. So just my heart goes out to you. I appreciate you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're incredible. And it's been wonderful to be with you again, and definitely looking forward to more.
Yep.
And hi, Charnel.
Hey, and bye, Aage. Thank you. I guess you're
Bye-bye.
leaving. I'm getting here and you're leaving.
Timing too. It's like,
It's
so funny too. It's live. We're just so casual, like we're sitting around a living room.
Yeah.
At least I feel like that. So it sounds like you're about to say something, Dan.
I just say it's getting pretty late here. I just wanted to say thank you and appreciate it. I'm particularly glad to meet Elena there. I really admire.
Yes.
your
Oh my
work.
God. We need to talk.
Yes. I look forward to that. Really, it was wonderful. And thank you, everybody. Happy this year. Blessings.
It's
Blessings.
nice to meet you.
Sweet dreams.
You as well. Awesome. So we're just checking out questions. How and why did Tiamat explode? I can share just a few words on that, unless somebody wants to go first. I'll just kind of go for it. Tiamat is a Sophionic planet. It is also known as the Dragon Queen, and it existed in the Tara system, a higher harmonic universe connected to dimensions 4, 5, and 6. And again, take this with a grain of salt, but this is what my research has shown and what my intuition has guided me to understand about it. There's mythologies that talk about the balance of Tiamat and Apsu, which represented the sacred union in the universe, basically. And so something about Marduk and Nibiru and just sort of this whole kind of drama unfolding in this free will universe that led to the explosion of Tiamat. And there was also a very advanced race of beings that were seated in the Tara system that relate to the original Atlantis Lemuria before we had root races and cloister races. And so when Tiamat exploded, it really messed up the whole balance of the masculine and feminine. And when we dropped down into this lower density and part of Tiamat became Maldek and the earth, when Maldek exploded, that was the next level of another shattering of this balance of the masculine and feminine, to the point where they really were able to take advantage of us because we began to lose our abilities and our direct connect with source. And so the fragments of Tiamat and Maldek make up the asteroid belt, Maldek being 3D and Tiamat being 5D. So when we look at all the bits of the asteroid belt, they do represent archetypes, and there's a lot of stories within those asteroids, so that we can rebuild our fragmented consciousness and become whole again, which has to do with upgrading our DNA as well. And this healing process has to do with recovering from these exploded planets, because when you exist on a planet that explodes, your consciousness and the trauma that you experience is all a part of that. And it being a Sophionic planet, it created the Akamoth, it brought in the Akamoth. And that womb energy got harnessed, and the Dark Mother reversals came in, and then the worship of the Baphomet, the denial of the mother, or the demonization or misrepresentation of her, or only certain stories and not the full picture of the goddess energy ended up being what we've been dealing with. And that's all changing. So I'll just leave it at that. Anybody else?
That was awesome.
Yeah, you're a cosmic alchemist.
I think too much. No, I know. I just love how we all just merge our information, and there's, you know, I learned so much from you guys, and then I have certain specialties that I've put a lot of attention on, and that one was an interesting one, and it's never ending. It's never ending. It's so crazy that we don't have access to any of this kind of information in our school systems or growing up. It's like it never happened. It's so weird.
It's
Like,
coming.
I know. Okay. So, and the cool thing is that we're all a part of this alchemizing process, and especially missions like all of you, being the sort of the guiding principle of this alchemical shift to turn it around. It's fun to surf it with you all. Okay. I don't see any questions. Anything you want to bring to the table, Charnel? Any thoughts from any of you guys? Just, you know, just lunge forward and say something if you like. Or introduce a question to the group, or any share. And if anybody else has any questions that are still a part of the events, we got the Q&A open still.
Dr. Charnel, since you just came, I'd love to hear from you.
I don't know what you guys have been talking about, so I feel like I just like jumped into the back end of you guys saying goodbye to everybody. So I was like, wait a minute.
That
Well,
kind of
okay, let me
happened to
put
me
some-
too. So I
Oh,
came
okay.
in
Well,
really
me
late, so.
too. I'm running the event, and I had to step away. I got in like 15 minutes ago. But I guess the question is, because we're going to close up pretty soon here, what next? Right? What is next? Like yesterday, I feel was so amazing. We went into so many details on tools and techniques, right, that we offer everybody. Today, we're kind of talking about like the dynamics of, you know, the structure of this matrix, you know, and we've already really discussed how we like tools that we can do to really restructure this matrix. But maybe you just want to riff on that a little bit, and just we can go around after that and just do our closing thoughts for the whole conference.
For everybody to share something on that. Real quick, just a quick question to answer. This is from a friend. What's up with the Baphomet and butterfly symbolism in Hollywood? Butterfly symbolism in Hollywood, I would say, has to do with the monarch programming, and Baphomet being the Dark Mother reversals is a satanic, manipulation to harvest and siphon life force and feed this, kind of dark mother denying the true essence of the Sophia mother energy. Anybody else? Okay, so going back to you, Neil, we're not going to take any more questions. We're just going to go around. Okay, yep, we're good with the questions. So Neil, I'm so sorry. Just if you could just reiterate, we're going to close the questions and answers down. We're going to go around and what next? So who you want to go first, or who do you think?
We'll go. I'll go last, and I'll close it out. But Dr.
Okay.
Charnel can go first.
Yeah.
Awesome. So for me, anything nature, I think we all agree, definitely. Laughing for no reason, having fun for no reason, doing the things that make you happy, for sure. Animals are really high frequency, as we discussed. Dolphins and horses might be a little bit more difficult to have access to at times, but cats purr at 186 megahertz. And then dogs are they just are magnificent. And so we got that going for us. Definitely essential oils, crystals, high vibe diet for sure. Anything that doesn't have chemicals or MSG or any of the GMOs, that kind of thing. Being in sunlight, getting outside in the sun, definitely grounding, sand, dirt, grass, all those things, being in nature, like I mentioned, being by the water is really important. Or even if you can't be in the water, be by the water. And or even like showers or magnesium baths are really, really important. Red light therapy, all the other like frequency machines as far as hyperbaric chamber, sauna, infrared sauna, Rife, biofeedback, foot detoxes. There's just so many.
Float therapy. Have you ever tried that, Dr. Charnel?
What's
float
that?
Therapy. Have you ever tried float therapy?
Oh my gosh, yes, float tank. I don't like the dry float tank. I like the regular float tank. Also cryotherapy. I do that a couple times a week. You can get IVs like Meyer cocktails, high vitamin C, D3. So yeah, there's so many, things physical things that we, have like a device that you can just put on your wrist or your ankle when you're sleeping for grounding purposes. If you can't get to nature, maybe you're in like cement jungle, wherever city. But yeah, lots of ways that you can just put things in your house to keep things grounded. And you know what? Friends are really important. Being around a good community, conscious thinking, conscious speaking, being aware of your surroundings and what you're thinking about, talking about, things that you're looking at, listening to, turn down the news. Elena spoke, we've done several conferences together, Elena and Laura and I, and actually Seth too. But Elena, you said this, and I still think about it, is fear is consent. And I always credit you with that, because that quote is like lingers in my existence. It's like, it was such a big deal. And then here recently, my dream about being immortal, like there's something huge about this. Remembering that we cannot die. There is no such thing. So if we can remember that we are immortal, we are the immortals, we are the Eternals, just like I guess there's another movie coming out called The Eternals. But when we live in that, there is no death, there is only life, and that is our focus, then what's there to be afraid of? It's just like, we're here, we're born for this, for now in this season, and our job is to shine and to just be. And to remember that God DNA is in us, projecting. And when we stay in that alignment of God beaming out of us and only thinking what God would think, only speaking what God would think, only listening to what God would listen to, and just really, really, kind of just immersing ourselves with what God would do. And I don't mean it like, what would Jesus do? I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about the projection of the God DNA that we were born into, and even visualizing that, and everywhere we go, knowing I ignite Christ consciousness in everyone I contact, and that being my only truth and belief, and I am alive in that. Then you have things that come back to you that you will get a match to, and you will, everywhere you go, ignite miracles, because that is your inheritance. That is my inheritance. And that is what we are here to do, is to bring heaven on earth, to be heaven on earth, and to stay in love, not just for a minute, but to stay in the vibration of Christ consciousness, who is love, and beam that out.
Beautiful. Who would like to go next? Or do you want to? How about you, Elena?
Well, I'm wonderful words. I'm still like, wow. Well, my words would be, it is time we take our destiny in hands and stop giving our power away to whatever it is, religion, government, state, ETs. ETs take care of ET problems, what we can't deal with, okay, because we don't have the technology. But us, humans, we need to take care of human stuff, the planet, human species, ourselves, and grow up, stop kneeling, standing up. And so people can feel lost because we've been conditioned from millenniums to just kneel and obey and live in fear, you know. Humans need to remember the power of creativity, because creativity is survival. So, you know, I've experienced that myself. I've been living in Egypt, where nothing ever works how you want. So the thing is, I've learned how not to rely as much as possible, not to rely on someone else. As much as possible, rely on yourself. Then you remove the problems, you remove the obstacles. Try to rely as much as possible on yourself, not to depend on anyone else. And when you do that, suddenly you freak out because you're confronted like a big boy or a big girl to the problems. And what happens? Creativity, survival instincts, creativity. And suddenly, oh, you come up with solutions. And that happens. And suddenly you take confidence in yourself because you discover human being is full of resources and creativity. Everyone has creativity, but sometimes it's when we are confronted to the problem that suddenly creativity happens by survival. So we can all do that. And it's time we do it. We do what we can to improve the world around us a little bit. You know, if everyone does its bit around themselves, it changes the world, you know that. So that would be my message. Take your power in hands. It's time we take our destiny in hands, and let's go for it.
Awesome, Elena. Thank you so much for being a part of this event. It's just been so incredible.
My pleasure.
And of course, Dr. Chanel, man, totally so grateful that you've been a part of this as well. And we're all going to be creating more. And how about you, Seth? And then I'll go, and then Neil, and we'll say goodnight.
Oh my God. Okay.
But
Yes.
it's like
So beautiful, you
really
guys.
cool. Okay, go ahead.
Everything here has been so great. I'm so happy. Now, I want to take what Charnel and Elena said and emphasize to everybody the importance of that, because it's very much like the stuff that we got to do for ourselves that nobody else is going to do. And as a result of doing that, you would be amazed at what can happen as a result of doing it. Like, I live in Maine, okay? And for those, some people never even heard of it. You know, it's up in the northeast of the US. It's surrounded by woods. It's just in the woods. We have a community of people up here that is thriving. When I say thriving, I'm talking like there's almost 3,000 members strong. Every week we have these huge meetings in every county of the state. This weekend we're having a massive event. There'll probably be 300 or 400 people at it. And literally all people who realize everything that's happening, they're like, no, we're going to create new systems. We're going to create new ways of being. And I'm blown away because I never thought this would happen here. Of all places in the world, I've made more friends in the past year than I've ever had in my entire life. And You know, it started with Dr. Northrup. Christian Northrup lives a couple towns over from me, and everybody's like, you got to meet her, you got to go there. I met her and her daughter, and just seeing how all these people are coming together with open hearts and open minds and accepting each other. I mean, we've got right-wing fundamental Christians all the way to barefoot dancing in the sand hippies, all embracing each other, all accepting one another, all like, okay, we might think and look different and talk different, but we're really referencing the same thing and we all know it. And so bit by bit, we're all creating, or I should say, we are experiencing the creation of new states of being through us, because things will happen. We'll be like, okay, we're going to focus our energy and we're going to do something. And these synchronicities will happen. And we'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. It's amazing. And then just having that high level of like, oh, anything is possible creates new things. So bit by bit, we become more coherent as a community. Even the word community, immunity, unity. When people truly get together with open hearts and they love each other unconditionally, or at least they can hold space, and they let the triggers and the wounding and the stuff that usually repels us from others, you just look at that as an opportunity to teach you how to rise above it. You start doing that collectively as a group. And this is happening up here in Maine. And it's crazy, you know, because Dr. Northrup, they write these articles about her. You can type it up, and, you know, she was Reader's Digest 12 most respected people in America. And now she's part of the disinformation dozen. They call her a domestic terrorist. And it's like, I know this woman really, she's like the most loving, beautiful soul you could ever imagine. Like, so it just goes to show, like, and everyone here, it's a joke. Like, we're laughing at it because all these systems of control that are scaring the hell out of people are attacking people like Christian Northrup, who's like, so when you see, you know, because we're all in it up here and we're watching firsthand, we're like, oh my God, they've got nothing left. If they've resorted to that, like, it's like name calling essentially. Who hasn't grown up? Who hasn't recognized that they have a universal soul existing within them, and that it's our inalienable right to be conscious of that and interact with each other in a way that reinforces and inspires each other's remembrance of that? We're doing that up here. And the whole world, everything that's happening in the world is gearing us up to be doing this together, all of us. Like, we're all placed in different parts of it, but essentially we're all doing the same thing, you know? And so for me, what's next is, this is what's happening. You know, it's what you guys said, got to do the inner work. The inner work is like it, no matter what. But where it goes from there is the potential for these really beautiful, powerful communities that have solutions to every single problem that is being projected by society. So, wow, really, wow. I'm just in a state of like, thank God, you know.
Oh, that's so awesome. It's been so wonderful to be with you. I'll share my little bit, if that's cool, Neil. Thank you, Seth, so much. Your friendship and just all that we've been doing together and all that we will do. It just makes me. Yeah. I mean, that to me is as a part of what's next is the synchronicities, the connections, the things that we're going to create. Staying creative is really important because it's so easy to get invaded by what's coming at us from outside of us, that when it infects our creative channels, we can tell something's wrong, but sometimes it's not easy to release that unless we align with a vision, a goal, or a dream. And I've been saying that a lot, sort of redundantly lately, but truth is a muscle, just like intuition, that needs to be built, that it can atrophy. It's always there, but it's either really small and not being paid attention to, or it can be really big where, okay, our intuition is strong, our higher guidance is there, you're walking in your truth. And when you do that and you see the results of what it does to your life, what it does to your health, it's a little bit easier to let go of the people that might not be able to handle it, that might not want to live in their own truth. Because when we live in our truth frequency, we don't want others to live our truth. We hope that they'll live their truth. And in holding this sovereignty and respect for one another with mutual love and respect and integrity, our differences are a blessing, because we're not going to be arguing over belief systems, which is very much the deep state tactics. So if you think that something needs to happen, if you're frustrated and you're just like, why isn't this happening? And I live here and I feel alone and nobody's coming together. It might be that you're the one to create that. Very often the things that make us depressed and angry, or I don't know, overly thinking, your calling or your greater mission is trying to get your attention. Doesn't mean it's always easy to step into, but you can always put out the word and see who else might be in agreement. Leadership in this day and age is a lot different than the old paradigm model, which is dying. A lot of people are kind of dying with it. They have a chance to always be reborn, of course. But the new leadership of these times, I feel, is be true to yourself, be genuine, authentic, be real with the process and the heartbreak even. Don't be ashamed of it, but, try and move through it as best as possible, especially those lower frequencies that I was showing on the power or the Hawkins scale that I share in pretty much most presentation these days. Let's not judge the humanness of it all, but let's work with it and give it unconditional love and understanding so that we can turn it into our greater potential. If we're feeling grief, regret, and any kind of pain, there's something on the other side of the coin, something on the other side of coin of depression and anger as well. Soul longing, passion, inspiration that we could be standing in alignment with or moving in the direction of to bring more of it into our life is always an option. When we don't take that step, it literally eats us alive and it literally shuts us down. And that's where stagnation can also be a reason for the body to create disease. Mind control, social engineering as well. Sometimes the false light can sustain one for a while, but then it eventually catches up with itself. Truth is everything. Live your truth. Take the time to feel into what you're going through. Detox all that you can. Shut all the electronics down every once in a while and just be in the now as much as possible. It's so easy to be like in the future, in the past. And that's fine because we tend to process, but give yourself a break to just be in the now and call your energy back and really anchor in what your intent is, what your goals are, what your visions are, and really make sure that you infuse your creative channels with that on a consistent basis. We have a new moon on Thursday. That's a really good opportunity, especially with sun, moon being in Scorpio opposite Uranus. There is a squared aspect to Saturn. That's not always fun, but that pressure of control and tyranny is producing something if we allow it. It's helping us to reclaim our treasures. So just know that in the face of adversity, this is where we can reclaim our power. And I just want to share one quick thing. I hope that's okay. This is what's coming up. This is what's coming up that is so important to embrace that I shared in the conference. We're entering Ophiuchus seasons. The themes connected to Ophiuchus are unification and wound healing. The dates are November 30th to December 17th. It's right in between Scorpio, Sagittarius. And so it's the ether purification that is now available, and it hasn't really been available until recently, 2010, when the sun started to move through the 13th sign. It relates to creatrix connectivity, pure transparent crystalline light, divine mother, and the cleansing power of cosmic love, recoding the DNA, aligning to the cosmic heart of Lyra and Andromeda universal center, rebirthing, cleansing the blood, breath, and mitochondria. So when you think of all the things that people are going through, blood clots, unable to breathe, this and that, there's a lot of resistance in reconnecting to the mother and healing the mitochondrial DNA because it's been damaged for so long and all the distortions have made it very difficult. So the very thing that is going to change it all for the better and transform us is what people are very much in resistance of because of the fear of death. When we embrace death and the transformation process, we'll begin to realize something truly profound is happening on a planetary and cosmic level. Ophiuchus, Chiron rules Ophiuchus, which has to do with wounds, the wounded healer. And when we can honestly face our wounds, we're able to really access the ether energies, the higher energies of source, unconditional love of the mother, and really, really purify. So this window is hugely important. December 6th to 9th, the Great Attractor. It's 14 degrees Sagittarius, and it relates to an amping up of our manifestation abilities on a massive level. November 19th to 23rd, we move through the galactic center. And on the other side of the Great Attractor of the Milky Way is the Andromeda galactic core. So there are extraordinary things. Maybe, replay this and read the rest. I just want to kind of end it. But okay, wait, real quick. This phase is the solar alignment when the cosmic ether, which is at the core of the galactic center, which represents pouring of healing spiritual waters into the earth and humanity from Mother God. Previously, these waters were corrupted by entrapping the mother principle, Baphomet, and gold ray seraphim on earth, capable of healing fallen angels, brings light to light, the resurrection as it resides between Scorpio and Sagittarius. We all can die and resurrect. Let's not fear death. Let's release everything that doesn't serve us, be willing to rise in these times, embrace the fullness of all that we are, take off the mask, speak your truth, and don't worry about what anybody thinks. You're going to be a being of love anyway. If they don't like it, whatever.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm so happy with the way this event went. Just like, it was really uplifting for myself, and I know that a lot of people just checking out the YouTube and all the comments here, a lot of people got a lot out of this, and so many people came here through synchronicity. And it's really, like I said right at the beginning, this event was an activation. This is an upliftment of consciousness, not just information. It's what do we do now, and how can we create harmony within our lives and for the entire planet, right? So I want to just bring it all together right here, because there was so many beautiful points that you all made as you're doing your closing statements, and I took notes to just really bring it full circle. And then I'm going to end with 2 back-to-back poems on Mother Earth, because we're going to bring it down to earth, But it was expressed a couple of times here that, through what we've noticed throughout human history, at least documented history the last few thousand years, is that from great adversity comes extreme innovation and creativity, right? And we've been in this time of great adversity, even if you're having a good time, a lot of people aren't. And it's taken us to the point that we've had to come up with innovative ideas just to be, right? Humanity is so incredibly beautiful. Like the things that we can do, and what the creativity that we can express, and the range of experiences that we're able to feel in this free world is just beautiful to me. That I've also noticed that, a lot of people that become the masters of something, right? Let's just say that they become a therapist or a rehab, work in rehab or anything. Most of those individuals, right, have actually been on the other end of it. Like, for example, do you want to maybe get some therapy from someone who just has book smart and went to college, or someone that maybe was a drug addict and then figured out how not to be it and now is teaching you the ways? So all these challenges and adversities that we've had have really given us the opportunity to transcend. Dr. Charnel, you put your hand up. Do you want to comment on that?
I was just agreeing. I was just saying there's nothing that beats experience. Experience trumps everything.
Right. And that's why we're here. We're here to experience, Source wanted to experience itself infinitely. And now we're here experiencing ourselves in such a beautiful way. And just to go back here to, so one aspect is something that really stood out to me when I went to a Bashar channeling a long time ago, was something called the rubber band effect. Like when you basically, the level of consciousness is you might go into duality, but when you learn these lessons, the rubber band effect is that you let go of the rubber band and then you just like jump into this evolution of consciousness. And what I feel that this duality has represented has been the separation from our connection. We've never really truly separated, but the belief that we are, right? And then acting upon it. And now that we've got to that point, there's no way to go but up. So to me, I'm really hopeful. It's inevitable. Scriptures talk about it. There's even dating in this Vedic scriptures of the dates of our evolutions at different levels, right? It's happening, it's going to happen. And all we got to do is just keep moving forward and keep ourselves centered. So I hope that you've got some tools and techniques from this experience of the last 2 days that can help you with that. Just a couple of more pointers for myself is, we had a question yesterday that someone said that he was in a funk. Surround yourself with what harmonizes you, right? Utilize the modalities that are available to you, right? I used to put on just, I had like 5 crystal, what do they call it? Himalayan salt lamps in one room at one point. Just walk right into it. And, just the negative ions from that just neutralizes the whole air and you just feel it. So there's so many tools available to you. Use what you need and keep yourself centered in that place so that we don't come from a place of triggered emotions and reactions, but we come from a place of understanding and acceptance, because we're all just trying to figure it out. None of us have all the answers. And even if we do, that could just be one layer of one dimension of awareness. Who knows how far it really goes? Maybe this is just one construct within this karmic cycle in this galaxy, right? So there's so many layers that we're going to unfold, and it's about, and again, I said a quote from the Rig Veda earlier. Here's another quote. It's not the destination, but it's the journey that counts. So as long as we remember that and we own that, then we won't have to be in fear about being present in this moment and waiting for something like, well, when will we ascend? When will we be in this world, right? The only way we're going to create that paradoxical reality is by being present in the now, right? It's so interesting how this works. The universe works in a paradox, and it's not about knowing the paradox, it's just accepting that that's what it is, Okay, did I have anything else I wanted to share?
Can I just say one thing? If you're in a funk,
Yeah, go for it.
know that you're funky and do the funky dance. Just funk out.
Yeah, exactly. Express it through your creativity, through your dance, whatever you need to do, All right. And on that note, everybody, thank you all so much. Love you very much. I'm just going to do these poems right here. The first one's called Days of Origin, and then the other one's called Mother Earth. And these are pretty new. I only wrote them within the last year. Here we go. Since the days of origin of human mindset, the first day before others was set into motion, movement is not as we believe. We perceive steps being taken, rhymes are breaking, minds that were shaking by the earth when we began to turn the other way. Another way. Is there another way to play this game? Is there another way to play this game? The fossilized bones become rocks, maimed forever, injured and ashamed, victimized and blamed. I'm the definition of crazed. But it's the only way I can think of other ways to restructure this maze so we can escape the delusion we create, the energy of hate as we despise each other, forget that we are brothers and sisters, disrespected the mother earth, we forgot her worth. Earth, we forgot her worth. Earth, we forgot her worth. Earth gave humanity from out of the birth. Mother Earth. This right here, everybody, goes out to one of the manifestations of source. The north sky, it reflects light on my porch. The entire planet is my church. Even when she is scorched, Mother Nature will nourish and replenish the soil so that mankind can reap the spoils, abundance, creation, and destruction. The Kali Ma personification manifesting on this plane in the form of all life. Married to Father Sky, our minds remain fertile, earth in the back of a turtle, the Nephilim reversal, and generations of persecution. Nemesis brings retribution, and Ishtar's contribution are the flowers that bloom, the life that we once knew. She is the one who provides unconditional love to you. As we move over her surface, I dedicate these verses. She is always of service. Time to give back. Time to bring it back. The wounded feminine is where we've been at, but also the wounded man. The divine aspect ran away from our place a millennia ago. Patriarchy and damaged egos took over this world. Now is the moment to bring back the days of old. The divine feminine has been on hold, but never truly left. This energy transcends gender as we bark on this quest to remember our nest. Before we were born, she blessed you and me. You and me. But who are we? An illustration of beauty and art displayed in the cosmos for all of those who pass us to see and admire. She is the fire, the water, the wind, and the birds. All other creatures have heard her voice. Her voice sings lands into existence, providing assistance and gravitational resistance so we can continue to thrive. When we die before our souls return to the sky, we join her and become her again, the truest of friends, with us until the end and rebirth. She is Mother Earth.
Wow. It's just incredible, man. Wow, 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 wow. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you all so much. Love you guys. Such a great, Laura, you brought together some amazing people. I'm so grateful for working with you in just this event and the intention for it. So
These are the three that I brought forward that are here with us in this
yeah, I
final.
know, right?
And you brought together incredible people in Aage, and it was really great to do this with you guys. And so glad this can be replayed. And thanks everybody so much for your support. And
All right, everybody. Well, that's it. So you will get unlimited replay access. We'll be sending out the replay soon. Love you guys. Yeah, go ahead.
Can they still purchase even if they didn't attend the
Yes.
last group?
You can
Okay.
purchase forever. So share it with your friends and family.
Yeah, so it's like it's like buying a book on Amazon. It's here. If you didn't attend, the link will be in the description. So yeah, I would definitely check this out. Awesome, guys.
Okay.
All right.
Good night,
Thank you so
everybody.
much,
Thank you.
guys. Yep.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.